Before moving on to the next section, which is about hyperlinks, let me go over our web page one more time here. What you're seeing right now would be the default for displaying the elements that we created in our code. We haven't set any kind of styling to it, so our web browser will display it this way. The default for text color, for example, is black. The default for the background color is white. When it comes to the font, it depending on what you have set as the default for your web browser, it will display that. Most people will have Times New Roman as the default, and that's what you're seeing here. This H1 element, the default is to show it in bold, and also this particular size, which is 32 pixels. For paragraphs, the default is to make it 16 pixels and not bold. Same thing for this other paragraph. When it comes to the order that you see it, it will be exactly as how you placed it in the HTML. We have our H1 followed by the paragraph, the image, another paragraph, an image, and a paragraph. Right there, I just saved and refreshed my page. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. The order that you see it here is the order that I have it in my code. Now let's see, there's one more thing. Oh, and when it comes to paragraphs, there's a space before and after. All this default behavior. And going back to a concept that I mentioned in the first video, these, or maybe the second, I can't remember, these tags, we wrap that around content, in this case text, and it tells your web browser how to display that. Since we told the web browser that a simple sample web page is an H1 element, then it knows to display it this way by default. Now we can change all that behavior using CSS, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Let's focus on the HTML right now. We will get to the CSS portion later on. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the second section. Hyperlinks. The text hyperlinks here, you can consider that a subheading to a simple sample web page, which is an H1 heading. As a subheading to H1, then that means that we should use H2. There's my opening and closing H2 tags. We'll say hyperlinks. In this section, we will learn how to create hyperlinks out of words and also out of images. We'll start with text. We'll put University of Central Missouri inside opening and closing P tags. We'll say University of Central Missouri. And I want to make this into a hyperlink. To do that, we just wrap whatever we want to turn into a hyperlink with an opening anchor tag and a closing anchor tag. Anchor tag would be A, and we use the href attribute to go with that. The value that you use for the href attribute would be the link to wherever you want it to go. In this case, let's make it go to UCM's homepage. To do that, we will use http:// and then ucmo.edu. Here's the opening anchor tag, and now we want it to where University of Central Missouri, all of that is a hyperlink. So we will place the closing anchor tag right after that. Save that and refresh our preview. There's our hyperlinks heading and then that text. By default, anything that's a hyperlink or any text that's a hyperlink will be underlined and will be in blue. And to check to see if it works, if you set up your anchor tag correctly with the href attribute, click on that and that should take you to the UCM website. Okay, next we will do just one word to show you that you don't have to use a series of words to make it into a hyperlink. Start a new paragraph. Oops. What about making a word a hyperlink? Let's make the word a hyperlink. And let's just go ahead and make that go to UCM's homepage also. Since I already typed all that information, I will just copy and paste. Just like before, whatever text you want to make into a hyperlink, you just wrap that with the opening anchor tag with the correct href attribute, and then you put in a closing anchor tag. Save that and refresh. And now the word is a hyperlink to UCM's website. That's how you do it for words. But as you know from your web experiences, you can also make images into hyperlinks. So let's go ahead and do that for the Mulehead. That seems appropriate, except maybe let's make it go to the UCM Athletic page. That IMG element that corresponds to this Mulehead would be this one right here that says UCMathletics.com and so on. Same concept, we will wrap this IMG element with an opening and closing anchor tag. A href, in this case, I want it to go to the UCM Athletics homepage, so it's http:// UCMathletics.com. And don't forget your closing anchor tag. That way your browser knows when this particular hyperlink ends. Otherwise, it will consider everything else after this IMG element to be a hyperlink to UCMathletics.com, and that could really mess up your website. If all you want is this IMG element to be a hyperlink to that website, then make sure that you wrap the opening and closing anchor tags around that. So that's a fairly common mistake that students make when they're making hyperlinks. They forget to add the closing anchor tag. Let's save that and see if this worked. Refresh my page. And now when I hover over my Mulehead, it is now a hyperlink, and I can click on that and it takes me to the UCM Athletics page.